Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Outlier Podcast. I've got Michael with me. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
Great. How's it going?
Can't complain. Good, Michael. Friday, right? So we're almost there. So Michael is joining from the beautiful state of Texas, where he enjoys an amazing weather, and we are not. I mean, somehow we are. Somewhat we are in New York, but great to connect, Michael. I know it's really busy out here, out in your calendar, but thank you for again making this half an hour slot for us to talk to us and share your journey, your stellar journey, right? So thank you for that in the first place.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Quick introduction who Michael is. Michael is one of the senior executives in Texas Credit Union. He oversees business operations and deposits. One of the very interesting facts that I want to share with my audience, right? So Michael is one of the very few guests who have spent a considerable number of years, the first 5 years of his career in the armed forces in US Air Force. So amazing, that's a different respect, Michael, we have for you. Thank you for doing this for this country. Can't be better, right? So thank you for doing that. After spending some time in US Air Force, he moved from the industry and spent almost more than 2 decades in technology and operations. Very illustrious career. I mean, I somehow get hooked onto people spend time in the armed forces. So that introduction was necessary. Michael, in case I've missed anything, please feel free to add.
No, I think you nailed it there. Being a part of the armed forces is obviously very special, especially right now. And I think it's a great place for people to get leadership experience. They throw you into the deep end of the pool right away. I always joke in my first relocation, the captain got deployed on day 7 that I was there. First lieutenant slot was empty, and so I was a second lieutenant coming right out of college. And by day 8, I was in charge of all these people, all these managers, all these senior master sergeants. And obviously I did not know what I was doing. And I was lucky enough to have a Senior Master Sergeant Griffin. I remember to this day, took me under his wing and made sure we were making the right decisions. And I leaned on him heavily. And the conversation usually went like this. He'd say, Lieutenant, what do you want to do? I'd say, Senior Master Sergeant, what do you think we should do? And he'd tell me what he thought we should do. And I'd say, please explain to me why, so I understand it. He'd explain why. And I'd go, that sounds like a really smart decision. Senior Master Sergeant, let's do that. And so it's definitely a place where you get a lot of experience really quick.
I'm sure that's the reason you have this role today and leading a considerable section of the credit union, right? So we are really proud of what you've achieved in your career, Michael. Firstly, that's table stakes. Let's talk about your journey a bit, Michael, right? So let me ask you, how did you end up being in the armed forces and how did you move to credit unions finally? I mean, how has the journey been so far?
It's anything but linear. I'll say that. Definitely a lot of winding curves to the pathway.
Yes.
From, military to in startups in California for a number of years. I relocated back to Texas, and this is where I had the opportunity to get involved in the credit union space. I think my background with large companies as well as startups kind of fit well for what Credit Union was trying to do at the time, which was in the R&D space, starting up the research and development team for Credit Union. And once I got a taste of the credit union world and the values, and the commitments to membership and how that is, I think, very unique in society today, that I was hooked on this industry. And so I've been here for quite a while and really enjoying the ride.
Absolutely. It looks like you're enjoying the ride for sure. My next question would be around alignment, right? Now, since you lead or run both operations and deposits, very, very intertwined, but still very different functions, right? So how do you keep technology aligned, right, with real member outcomes?
Yeah, I think that the importance with that is to make sure you're bringing in technology for specific purposes and understanding what's the problem you're solving for. I feel like that's a question we like to ask a lot. I have absolutely seen scenarios where companies are bringing in, I'll say, tech for tech's sake, or there's some cool new shiny technology that somebody wants to bring in. We really focus on bringing in specific solutions for specific reasons. One example of this I can think of in terms of driving member outcomes, we recently brought in Balto Agent Assist for our call center. It's an AI agent that works with the call center. And some people are ahead of us, quite frankly, in terms of AI integration with their call centers. We were very deliberate in how we integrated AI into our call center because we still wanted the representative on the phone to be there, to be present, because we believe that conversation is essential for our connection
Yep.
with our membership. And so we brought
Sure.
in AI that's listening to that conversation, and it's populating the screen with, it pings off to our knowledge base, it pulls back the process or procedure that the rep needs, and it populates a screen with that for them. So the
Mhm.
representative is still having that personal conversation with the member, but now they're doing it with the scaffolding or the assistance of the AI agent. And so that's just one example of how we're looking to integrate AI and technology into our operations, but in a very deliberate way that we feel aligns with the member experience we want, and we feel it aligns with our values as a credit union.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Let's talk about what Credit Human is doing uniquely. Being a
Yeah.
part of a global uh, I would say, I don't know, what do I talk about? I mean, a global organization where you are working with other banks from other banks and credit unions across the nation, across the globe, right? Delivering value. So my question is across that angle. So what unique are you doing, Michael, to activate your values and your products? Because these two need to go hand.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I think one of the things that makes Credit Union unique is
Yeah,
we lead with values.
yeah.
That is the tip of the spear, I would argue, for what makes Credit Union a special credit union, a special place to work and to serve our
Mhm.
membership. I think what you're talking about there globally is the GABV, the Global Alliance for Banking of
Yes.
Values. We're a member of it, a proud member of it. 45 countries in this group, and there's really impressive organizations like GLS Bank in Germany, and Tritos in Netherlands, and BRAC in Bangladesh. It's just an organization that it's a group of financial institutions that are committed to making sure their values are represented in their products and their outcomes for their members and customers. And you
Sure.
say, oh, that
Sure.
sounds good. What does that really mean? Right. And I would say, well, it means things like tying depository dollars to lending outcomes and showing the member or the customer how their dollars is being used and deployed, right? And holding financial institutions
Sure.
accountable for that deployment of capital, and showing the good it's either doing in the world or the good it's not doing in the world, quite frankly. And members of the GABV and Credit Human are very committed to showing the good that work is doing. And that good could be, we're making sure we're, executing on loans that are maybe a little bit outside the norm, but they're
Sure.
strongly underwritten, as our record shows, but they're loans that traditional banks might not be willing to underwrite. And we're participating in that space. We just did a loan recently in New Orleans for the Wilcox Academy, right? And that's an organization that you could not have a better North Star of doing good in the community
Sure.
than the
Sure.
Wilcox Academy. And yet, they were not able to get funding through traditional means, and we were able to partner with the Lift Fund and make sure they got the loans they need to activate their missions.
Mhm.
The types of loans we make, I think, is a difference maker. We're the second largest solar lender in the United States right now. So
Wow.
when
I
it
didn't know
comes to
that. That's amazing. Wow.
sustainability,
Wow.
we're a big player. Our portfolio is over 750 million in the solar space. We do a lot of sustainable loans in geothermal. We do a lot of sustainable loans in rainwater catch. Oh, and even our we don't call it a headquarters, but our central building in San Antonio, 1703 Broadway, it has. I mean, we capture 80% of the water that lands on the campus for use. We got solar panels everywhere. We got 150 geothermal wells dug. So I mean, we're pumping energy back into the grid. It's just an amazing location for us, and our footprint nationally across just about, I don't know how many states we're in now with solar, 43 or 44, something like that.
Wow.
It's like we're a big player in that space, and so I think the loans we're doing in terms of underwriting for places like the Wilcox Academy, our footprint in sustainable and solar, I think that is a big difference maker.
That's actually huge. That's actually huge for sure. Because doing the second highest solar load in the country, that's no joke. You know that, right? I mean, you guys should talk about that more. I mean, maybe I should talk to your CMO to understand why aren't they talking about this. I mean, this should be the front line that you guys are doing an amazing job, right? I mean, second highest, amazing. So that's great. Moving on to a more strategic question, right? I mean, really appreciate what you're doing with GVV, amazing things. You know, moving on to the next is redesigning. Imagine, a hypothetical scenario, Michael, that you were given a chance to redesign a credit union from scratch, right? All the superpower comes to you. What would you, how will you design? And my question is, what differently will you do? while redesigning a new credit union.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it ties back for me at least a little bit to the previous as well, because I would say I would want to start with the why. I would want to start with understanding the purpose, understanding the values that a
Sure.
credit union from the studs up, right? What do we want to represent in the world, and how are we going to hold ourselves accountable, quite frankly,
Sure.
to make
Sure.
sure the decisions we're making in building this credit union and building our loan portfolio and building our depository are going to represent those values, right? Because I think there's some institutions out there where they got fancy ads. They can splash a lot of good words on a billboard somewhere, but maybe their
Sure.
actions, maybe their products don't 100% encapsulate and represent that. And I would think starting a credit union from scratch, I would want to start with values, and I would want to start with what we're going to represent in the world and how our products are going to execute on them.
That's a very forward thinking, you know that, right? It's not that easy to build that. It's very difficult. But the way how
It's
you're
not easy to
thinking,
build it, but I also feel like, especially with younger generations,
yes,
values resonate more. And so
way more.
exactly,
Absolutely.
not
Way
for
more.
like, old decrepit people like us. No, but these youngsters, I'm just joking. But the younger generations, it's so powerful how values matter to them, and I think it's so important that that they are that next breath of fresh air for all of us in a way, and
Absolutely.
reconnect us really, and pull us back to what matters in terms of values. And ROA, ROE, efficiency ratios, these things matter, but they matter in the context of
Yeah.
positively impacting your membership, of having good long-term financial outcomes for your members, for their ability to have successful, fulfilling lives. And so I think connecting with those values, bringing in the younger demo, I think there's just a lot of alignment and synergies there.
I mean, 100%, right? I mean, I'm 32, 33. I mean, I call myself a zillennial. I'm not exactly Gen Z, but I'm at the starting. I mean, just the starting, uh, spectrum of millennials. So I've got characteristics of Gen Z. When I talk to people, people refer me as you are so Gen Z. I'm like, no, not really, not entire Gen Z, but maybe 60% Gen Z and 40% millennial. I can tell you from my experience, Michael. I mean, it's very weird. I don't care about rates. With a 1% plus and minus, really doesn't really matter for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
It can be taken care of. The most important thing is values. Unless this organization is aligned to my values, doesn't really matter. You can be the best organization. I'm not working for you, but I'm not, banking with you for sure. So what you talked about, yes, we really care. We really care. And my sister, she's what, 25. She doesn't care about anything. She's like, she was talking. I mean, interesting conversation a couple of days back I was having with her. She is still in India. She was talking about sustainability. She was like, what is your organization doing about sustainability? I like, the one that I work, EXL, we do a lot of things. What are you guys doing? So she gave me a literally a half an hour write up on that these are the few things that you should do. I'm like, how did you know that? I've been reading about it for the last 6 months. I'm like, wow. So these kids are different level. And we're talking about, yes, unless you align with them, it's difficult to make them, one, convince, and second, have you as your customers or members, whatever you say. So yeah, might be you.
Well,
You might as well start a credit union, actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think it's the fact that the younger folks are so committed to values in an authentic way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're willing to make financial decisions, banking decisions, important
Sure.
life decisions around those values.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely an opportunity in
100%.
the FI space and the credit union space for us as an industry, to make sure we're realigning with what we say we're all about.
100%.
And that's a good thing, right? Like that's a good thing, not just for us, but for society. And I do think the credit union industry is uniquely positioned to leverage that, because the credit union industry is an industry that's built on values, and it's built on partnerships with everyday people. And that, from our roots, from the 1934 Credit Union Act that started all of us during the Great Depression, like, we were created for a purpose, right? Credit unions were created for a purpose, and that purpose is a values-driven purpose. And so in our very DNA as credit unions, this is connective tissue. And I think with with this values, I'll say renaissance, if you will, it's a great opportunity for credit unions to reconnect with their values and to make deep connections, sticky connections, if you will, with those younger generations.
Absolutely, 100% true. Right? This is something we can talk for hours, literally, Michael. Both of us are so aligned on this, talk for hours. But in the interest of time, let me ask you a couple of more questions because I know you've got a hard stop, to rush in. I mean, I'm a data scientist by profession. I build machine learning models for living. So when people talk about AI, another time I get so thrown away. I'm like, guys, let's fix basics, right? I mean, using ChatGPT is not AI, for the lack of better words. Right? AI is much broader. So how do you think, realistically, I mean, since you have seen both the ends of the spectrum, deposits, operations, in your previous role, you've seen business systems, technology. How realistically do you think will AI play a realistic role in credit unions in the next few years?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're at sort of an inflection point with AI and AI integration. I would argue most folks are using what I would call AI as a service, partnering with companies like Pindrop or BioCatch or Zest, some of these folks that are in this space. And I think in the short term, I'll say 3 to 5 years, I think that's probably where there's a lot of juice for credit unions willing to make a deeper investment. And that's an important part, is being clear on how much you're willing to invest in this and get your data clean. Because let's be honest, we all have data scattered across 15 different systems and they don't talk well together or integrate well together half the time. If you're willing to make a material investment in cleaning up your data, pulling it together, then I think there's some very interesting and provocative AI implications that can be leveraged. But I would say there's probably an asset size that you have to be above to have the capital, to have the resources to make that type of investment. I think everyone can play in the space, and I think it's just going to get more and more important. I mean, we've rolled out Zest AI for some loans, and we got Judy AI coming right behind it on the commercial side of the lending. I'll tell you, those have been really powerful for us. The lift we get from those is material, and this is just the beginning of this wave of technology integration. And so I don't pretend to have a crystal ball, but I would say being active in the space, being curious in the space, learning, trying stuff, and getting your hands in the dirt, that's probably where people need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well summed up, right? Right now we are using AI as a service, and that will continue for the next few years. I mean, that's the way forward for credit unions. I 100% agree. Moving on to the next question about deposits, right? I mean, I'm very gung-ho about deposit or membership growth because I strongly feel that's one of the most important priorities. I mean, I think this is the third time or fourth time I'm quoting Ron Shevlin, mentor, friend, whatever you call. Hi, Ron. Thank you for the research. So on his last What's Going On in Banking report, so Ron talks about deposit gathering, I think the third or the fourth highest priority for credit unions right now, right? My question is two-faced. One is, what is your current deposit acquisition strategy? And second, there's a concept called paycheck motel. What it means, paycheck coming in and paycheck moving out. There's no stickiness in deposits, right? What are you doing differently at Credit Human to ensure that the relationship is stickier and just not moving in and out? Because again, non-interest income is something which is very important, I know, but interest income is the most chunk of the money that we make in, right? So pretty much that's two sides of the question, tried summing up into one.
Yeah, and I think the timing of that question, we'll see where rates land for the year, but in a falling rate environment, obviously gathering deposits becomes more of a focus point, right? And so I would say where we are around that, and this is where I think there's synergies when you have a North Star as to what you are about. Again, it ties back, if you're talking stickiness, I would say if you're leading with rate, that's not very sticky. Because the second that rate moves, you get unsticky real quick and people just hop somebody else that has rate. And that doesn't mean you can't compete in rate in specific situations where you need to scaffold around liquidity or interest rate risk or whatever's going on there. But I would say from a stickiness standpoint, there's nothing stickier, again, than values. If you work and you live on your values and you represent your values, there's a bank down in Florida, Climate First Bank, and they're very fast growing per capita, and they're all, obviously in the name, they're very much about their values as we are. They're part of the GABV with us. I had an opportunity to meet some of their leaders at the GABV in Uganda last year at the annual meeting, and I would just say they're the type of institution like us where when you're leading with your values, the stickiness factor of your deposits is there because that depository dollar is not predicated on whether you're offering 10 points or 15 points on that specific depository account. It's predicated on the relationship that member or customer has with you as an institution and the values you're conveying back to them. And that's why connecting those depository dollars to loans is so powerful. If I can show you've got, let's say, $2,000 in your checking account with us, and we can show, that those depository dollars are being deployed here, right? To keep these rivers clean or to plant those trees, whatever that is, in plastics and reusable plastics. If we can show you that, and that matters to you, if that truly matters to you, like we just said, it does to a lot of younger people, and they're making that connection, then their impetus to stay is so strong because it's not it's not a transactional relationship, right? I think if you get out of that transactional space and you get into a value space, it's just a deeper relationship, which really resonates. So that we fold that into we've got specific strategies and tactics, but I would say the umbrella across it is still values.
Yeah, I mean, the example that you took right now, that really resonates, right? I mean, if your brand messaging is this, that we are just not there to make money, which you're not, but we are there to deploy the money that we make to make world a better place. I think that's the hook. That's the hook that even I'll get bought into, for sure. Amazing. I mean, great to hear the values of creative. One last question, Michael, in the interest of time. Now, since you lead a bunch of teams, I mean, cross-functional teams, operations, deposits, some part of technology. So how do you ensure, or what's the secret to having all of them actually work together? I mean, keep the entire flow going.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. It's funny because I was just having a conversation with our chief marketing officer the other day, and we were talking about some of the metrics she had and some of the metrics some of my depository teams have. We're looking at it and we're saying you're measuring from this part of the funnel, I'm measuring from that part of the funnel. Really, shouldn't we have one set of charts that we can work, that our people and our teams can work on together to connect that, to have that connective tissue where we're showing the throughput all the way through the funnel, and we are all accountable to some degree for parts of that, but there's a joint accountability. And I think the more your KPIs and your accountabilities are connected, I think the better you have. Because there is that risk of siloing across the org. And I'm crushing it in my section, and you guys are doing whatever you're doing over there. And that's obviously not the type of synergy you're looking for across divisions and business units. And so I think when you have agreed upon metrics that connect between the different areas, like the one I just had this week with our CMO, in joining some of those metrics together, we want the teams to understand the joint accountabilities of what we're trying to accomplish here.
That's fantastic, Michael. Again, thank you for sharing these golden nuggets. And somehow I feel really moved and proud that I spoke with you today, both because of your initial background in the military, plus what you're doing at Create Human, right? That's fantastic. And you should be proud of yourself that you guys are putting that foot forward and taking this mission to make world a better place. That's really important. And I'm not naming the Wall Street banks, but yes, you guys should be proud that you're doing much better than a lot of Wall Street banks out there. So thank you for whatever you do for the community and for the world. Thank you again, Mike.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and a real privilege. So thank you.